Let's talk about what might be next for the winner, and also Hernandez too, to an extent. But let's focus on Strickland. So now that Strickland has bested Hernandez and did so with authority, Chuck, the question for you is, what should the UFC do with the matchmaking for the middleweight title? So here's the issue. Nasruddin Imavov has won 5 fights in a row, while Strickland is coming off of certainly a very excellent win. But it is numerically, technically speaking, it's on a 1-fight win streak. It's not even a streak. You got to win 2. That wouldn't be a streak. So should UFC, not will, not could, the question is, Chuck, should the UFC grant Strickland a title shot?
The should part, right? Like no. I feel like Imavov has like put himself in that position. I know he has the loss, and I guess if you wanted to do the strict math, like he has that loss, but it did come out at 205 pounds, right? Like that was a different time, different weight class. Strickland did beat him, so I guess you could point that out if you're trying to justify it. But generally speaking, if you're just looking at what's been happening over the last couple of years within the division, Imavov has put himself in that position. The problem is that you now have 2 guys, and I guess this isn't really a problem. Like you have 2 guys who are competing for the same space. The UFC is going to have to make a decision, but it's like Sean Strickland's concerns are actually legit on this one, in that Chimaev doesn't really fight all that often. He started off fighting a lot, but now that he's the champion, I don't get the sense that he wants to fight more than like maybe once a year. He's got a lot of different. Obviously, he had his visa issues. Hopefully, those are resolved with what's going on in our presidency and all that. Like he's got that resolved, but he's one of those guys who's the Ramadan thing. He's got he's frequently injured or dealing with something. So to get him in there, and whoever gets that shot, it's going to be, you better make the most of it, right? Like you better make the most of it. And Imavov has put himself in that spot. I'm just like, if you're saying the should in the meritocracy sense, he's the guy. But I know the UFC doesn't operate. So they don't operate off a should, right? Like we saw that in the first couple of pay-per-views or numbered cards to start the year.
I mean, here's the issue for me. It's like, again, on paper, whose resume? I mean, Sean's got a better resume because he was a champion, obviously.
Right.
But I'm saying in terms of, okay, we're asking who has put together the requisite amount and type of wins in the middleweight division to be the most deserving of a title shot. If we're asking that question, the answer is only Imavov.
Right.
But here's the problem for me, Chuck. This is the issue. Number one, we've kind of talked about the fact that the UFC really is looking around the American landscape and they're saying to themselves, it's a little barren out here. We got to do something to promote some of the interests of the American market to for any number of reasons. And so that's obviously going to benefit Sean. The fact, number 2, that they have a history together, training, beefing with one another, whereas Imavov and Khamzat, I think, are not well, they've been chummy at times, but they're not. You're certainly not going to get the heated rivalry that you are with Strickland. But here's the other problem I have with Imavov. I don't know if I would pick either Strickland or Imavov to beat Chimaev, but if I had to pick one of them to beat Chimaev, it's definitely Strickland.
Yeah, I know that is weird. Yeah,
I just don't believe Imavov can beat him, and the problem with that logic, Chuck, and this is why the situation is so sticky, is that like you got to be, as a matchmaker and a promoter, your job is to put on the fights that people want to pay money to see. That's the job. But you have to honor some level of meritocracy to kind of keep the whole thing together. But of course, you can go outside of that all the time. This is a weird situation, Chuck, because they didn't give it to Arman Tsarukyan. They gave an opportunity to Patty, and that was outside the meritocratic system. Same thing at 145 on this one. But if they went with the guy who was the most meritocratic, to me, it's the least suspenseful. However, you can't award title shots based on what you think all the time anyway. Oh, this will just be more fun. Like, a champion's got to defend at some level against the most deserving guy. So, like, don't get me wrong. If they put Strickland in that fight, I'll be like, well, this is a much better fight.
Sure.
I mean, at least in theory, it's a much better fight. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know what they can't solve both of their problems at once. They can't solve a problem of like, we got to be down the line with matchmaking, or we got to make the fights that are the most compelling. This one, they're, I think, in direct contradiction with each other.
100%, man. And you know what? If they're going to make Imavov, wouldn't they already kind of be making it? Like, wouldn't they? Like, I feel like they're waiting to see. Now, maybe it was from a Fluffy, from that perspective of like, if Fluffy gets through, whatever. But when a guy comes through like this, and we know the recency bias, obviously, of the UFC and the fan base, like if he gets through on a fight like this, suddenly, people are talking about you again. This version of Sean Strickland is very fun to think about, but I think if you're looking at straight from like Blood Feud, and I point this out, and I don't know if it's just me, like a figment of my imagination, but the Paramount Plus thing seems like they're bringing more, like it's more cinematic. It's almost like they're trying to kind of have, I wouldn't go so far as to say like the WWE storylines, but they love these feuds, right? I feel like this is what they're embracing. And if you're doing that, then the Sean Strickland, I mean, it is fun to think, if you take out all the hatred and misogyny and all that, it's fun to think of him just focusing on a guy like Chimaev and, the levels of irritation and disrespect that he would do. That's fun because right now you have a guy who looks invincible in that division. So if you put those two things together in terms of a hype package, I think that would be the seller, right?
Let's go to our friend Long Island Luke here for just a second. Long Island Luke, how do you solve this problem? How do you figure out a way? What is the right answer to, on the one hand, one guy is from the traditional ways in which we measure eligibility, one guy has got a better case than the other, but the guy who's got the worst case has a much better case for a bigger fight and a better fight in the end.
I kind of disagree with you. I don't think it's going to be a better fight than Imavov. Like, I think Imavov is kind of underrated. I'm not giving either guy a chance against Chimaev. That's just the reality. I think Strickland's going to get his ass kicked, and I think Imavov's going to get his ass kicked. And when I say ass kicked, he might just get laid on for 25 minutes, but you know what I mean? I don't favor either guy in that. So, like, I'm of the old belief, give it to Imavov. He deserves it. Sean doesn't fucking deserve it off of one win. I put a poll in the chat. Who does everyone think Sean should fight next? It's overwhelmingly Khamzat. But
wow.
Personally, I think it should be winner of RDR Bohalio. Get another solid win in that, and then that's the rightful.
I mean, I can't even argue with the logic of it. I just can't, Chuck. You know what I mean? I can't say anything like, yes, that probably would make more sense. But I disagree with Long Island. Like, I don't see Chimaev laying on Strickland for 25 minutes. I can see him laying on Imavov for 25 minutes. I don't see it that way.
Because you think Strickland would put up too much of a resistance, like he would not be, or do you think he would fight a different fight?
I think what I think is, could I see a world where he is largely controlled through that, so that he doesn't get enough offense for it to really even matter? Sure, but like flat on his back, like you saw against DDP, no, I don't buy that. Whereas Imavov. Dude, Imavov's been taken down a lot, has been held down a lot. Like, I don't buy that at all. Let's put up some of these. Let's put up, you know what? Let's talk about this a little bit. Let's talk about Strickland on potentially facing Imavov. Because remember, Strickland's got to win over Imavov.
Right.
What if Strickland has to fight him again for whatever? Oh, here's the question. If Khamzat's not ready, then what they might end up doing is a rematch between Strickland and Imavov for the interim title. Strickland kind of talks not so much about the interim title per se, but the rematch.
There's an interesting tweet that came out from your pal, Mr. Nasruddin Imavov. He says, "My dream, bring me the clown for the crown."
Listen, dude, I've moved past you. I beat you. Relax. Either you get the belt or I get the belt. Once you get the belt, I'll take it from you. Once I get the belt, you'll lose to me.
Not that interested in it. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But here is now Sean talking about training with Khamzat.
Said he tapped you out. That's why you hate him.
Bro, I made him quit training. Witnesses in the audience. Where's Eric at? I made him quit. We're doing positional grappling. All right, start on my back. And I was like, first round, I let him fucking choke me because it's like no one gives a fuck. Let me tell you about this little bitch. I'll tell you. When I walk into a gym, do you think that I go find the little weakest man? I say, let's spar. I say, no, I go find the biggest, baddest motherfucker. And I'm like, hey, I want to spar you. Every time Chimaev would walk in the gym, he would pick the smallest, lowest level pro and say, but he looks like my opponent. You're beating the fuck out of it. And this is a true story. You guys could back me up, my team. Chimaev's a fucking bully. And if you notice what he does in the division, he just runs and fucking hides. Oh, now I want to go to 205 and fight fucking Yuri, who's not even the fucking champ, dude. You just run and fucking hide. You did it when you train with us, and you're doing it in the fucking division.
Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's a lot more interesting
Yeah.
than the pitch for Nasruddin Imavov. You know what I mean? It's just inherently far more interesting to me. And this, of course, is Chimaev's response. Habibi, calm down. I destroyed the guy who beat you twice, American bitch, which is also true. He also was way better than the guy that Sean Strickland went 10 rounds with and could not defeat. I don't know. Like, this is... I don't know what they're going to do, Chuck.
Yeah.
This is why this is my problem, Chuck. This is my problem.
Yeah.
This is why when in a lesser situation, when you have a chance to give a title shot to a guy, you should do it, because here you have a situation where a guy is very deserving of it, but the guy who's not as deserving of it is such an obviously better choice for the fight.
Yeah.
But now it just doubles down on the mistakes they've been making in other divisions to give guys title shots that they didn't deserve. So it feels like a little bit of continuity there in the end. But I don't think the fans would care. I really don't. And I understand that. I totally get it.